Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Clydes, a place where we talk about, as you saw, family, ministry, relationship, and pretty much anything else that we're learning in our current season. Hey, listen, we all have those things from our school days that we wish we could leave there, right? And that could be embarrassing haircuts, that could be embarrassing moments, that could be certain, maybe even friend choices. All those kind of things. But there is one thing that we have to make sure that we carry with us out of our school days in our everyday life. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Elizabeth Clyde.
Hello.
What mug are you drinking from, Liz?
Today is Kobe. I'm really missing Japan. I'm really missing Japan. And then I cooked steak the other day, and it was not the best, not my best work.
It wasn't Kobe beef.
It was not Kobe beef. And so I was just reminded of the time we ate Kobe beef in Kobe, and
Oh, man.
take me back, please.
It's just not fair. Like, you have something so good one time, and you just...
Yeah, we went to California Dreaming, and I got the steak I usually love, and now it's subpar. But, like, a
After
fantastic
Kobe, yeah.
steak is now subpar.
That's tough.
Sad.
Well, welcome back to both of us being here. Hopefully you liked last week's episode where I got to, we got to kind of recycle a teaching that I got to do with our whole worship and production and photography teams across our whole church. We do these quarterly get-togethers we call Creative Department Nights, and they're super fun. And that was actually the first one that I, in my current role, got a chance to speak
And
about.
I'm just so happy you scheduled that night on the night I was out of town. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, well, I didn't want you there, so...
Yeah, can you not do that next time?
Yeah, you promised not to come? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. So I really enjoyed being able to share that with you. Hopefully, it was a little bit niche, but hopefully something in that spoke to you. But today, we're going to talk about the not-so-flashy subject of study.
It depends on who you ask, because in my case scenario, it's all of the flash.
Nerd.
It's fine. Fine.
No, it's true. It's true. We're talking about studying a little bit. And before you click away, I know that already bores some of you, because I'll be honest, it bores me a little bit to some extent. But before you click away from this, or maybe you're just going, I'm not in school anymore, this isn't for me, maybe I'm older, maybe I'm just whatever. Studying is not just something that we do in order to pass a test. It's a spiritual discipline, right? And we've talked about this at least twice so far on the podcast. And it's something, if it's a spiritual discipline, that means that it's something that we as followers of Jesus have to grow in and have to develop in. So we're going to break this whole conversation up into just a few different chapters, and that way it'll make it a little bit easier to digest. The first one we're going to hit on is the value of studying. Let's talk about the value of studying. So let me ask you this. What role do you think that studying plays in achieving some kind of success or getting some kind of understanding? Just personally for you.
So what role does it play? It depends on the outcome of my studying. Depends on what role. So am I studying for self-growth because I want the knowledge? Am I studying to pass a test? Am I studying to impress someone at the next dinner party? So that kind of, the role depends on the value. Because if I'm studying just for myself, I'm going to put a lot less restriction and a lot less eagerness for myself, because I'm chill.
And we'll definitely hit on some of those like friction points a little bit later in the episode in the conversation. But what you're diving into is a little bit of why even study. So I think I can speak into that a little bit, because I am not the most school academically gifted person in any regard. So
I agree.
Studying does not come naturally for me, and I don't even have the best. This is going to be a great conversation for me, because I'm going to totally learn some stuff.
Which is like so frustrating, because going through, like, watching you get your bachelor's and watching you get your master's, you're so smart, but you just don't want to do the application. So you have a lot of common sense, and you can read something and retain it very well, but you just don't want to do it. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I like the application. So to kind of clarify what you're saying, I don't want to put in the work to study. I do love the application, and I think that studying to me it slows my pace down. So if I have to make flashcards, or if I have to do read and then copy this kind of thing down on a journal so I make sure I got it, or anything like that, it's not doing anything. All I'm doing is just regurgitating information. And so to me, I'm like,
So
I'm
how
not
do you
accomplishing
retain
anything.
information then? I know I'm
Solid
skipping
question.
throughout the outline.
Well, no. I paused because I just have no idea. I've never had like a great study routine or rhythm or anything. I just read it or listen to it and think about it.
And then you dump it.
Yeah, as quickly as humanly possible. I also, because of that, probably because of my lack of preparation, I have immense like test taking anxiety. So anytime I have to take any kind of test, it's like, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. So the value of studying, I think that, okay, just like that. So the ability to quickly recall that, I think that's why studying matters in the first place. Does it slow you down? I would say yes. Does it waste time? Absolutely. Just kidding. That's just my perspective. It might my wrong perspective, but the whole goal and the value of studying is, in my opinion, so that you can recall that information. And to me, we were talking in small group last night about how it's so important for us to start our day in the Word and listen to worship music like first thing in the morning and set the tone for the day so that we internalize that stuff so that we can like let that stuff flow out of us. Because unless we have quote unquote studied and internalized that information, that scripture, that passage, whatever it is, we can't pull that back. We can't recall that information in order to act on it. So I think that probably plays a massive role in the value of studying. And it leans, I would say, into 2 Timothy 2:15, which says, do your best to present yourself as God, as one approved, with that little 100% A+ check mark thing, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the truth, or handles the word of truth. So the whole thing speaks to, you want to be one who's approved. How do you get approval? You do the work beforehand, do the behind the scenes stuff. So it's all good stuff.
Like
It's the
making
value.
almost 300 flashcards that you are telling me is a waste of my time.
So give us a little bit of context for, okay, I'll set this up for us. So Liz is in her licensing era. So she's pursuing in the Assemblies of God. There's 3 levels of credentials, ministerial credentials: certified, then there's licensed, then there is ordained. And so because of her undergrad stuff at Southeastern University, she is able to jump certified and go straight to license. So all that to say, she's studying, which may or may not be where this conversation even came from.
Because you kept on telling me I was wasting my time.
And so she is studying for that licensing exam. Now, there's probably, 200 questions or so on there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I have about 300 flashcards, maybe 320.
You're making them in Canva. You're just...
Okay, so I started handwriting them like I did in college.
Yeah, bump that.
And I just wasn't... And here's the thing, and this is where I kind of channeled you a little bit. Now, in college, I color-coded. I had them beautiful. I cut index cards in half because I have small handwriting.
Yep.
And I would literally have thick stacks of index cards. Do you remember that in college?
Yes.
And I would even hole punch them and like do the little ringlet on them so they...
Yeah.
I just...
What a nerd.
It's a nerd, but I love feeling... So you have test anxiety. I love feeling prepared.
Yeah, you have pre-anxiety. I have current, present anxiety. You have pre because that helps you
I
to
just
study.
don't know what's going to be on there.
Yeah.
So I want to study everything.
I just don't think about it.
And I feel like if I'm going to go ahead and study, kind of like what the scripture says, and in 2 Timothy 2:5, it tells you to present yourself to God as one approved. And I just feel like if I'm going to present myself to God, I'm not going to present a half a version of me. So I'm not going to halfway study. I'm not going to study just to get by. I'm not going to study just to pass. I want a perfect score. And I know that sounds so nerdy, and I know that's almost impossible to get, but I want a perfect score.
I thought when you said that, I thought you were going to say, I want to be ninja.
I do want
really
to be
thought
ninja.
you were going to say that.
So if you have not, Google "I Want to Be Ninja," and it's just this crazy white lady being very racist.
Or don't.
Singing "I
Your
Want
choice.
to Be." It's hilarious. And so that's kind of been living in our head rent free, and we just randomly burst into song. But anyway, the point is I want a
It's
perfect
good, though.
score.
Yeah.
And I know it may not happen. And I want the self-satisfaction. I do want a little bit of bragging rights too. Don't get me wrong. If I get a perfect score, I will literally not hide my light under a bushel. No, I would tell everyone about my perfect score.
Sort of with that. Is that a verse? Yes, it's a verse. Yes, it's Matthew. It's a verse.
Maybe
thought it was
if
just a
you
song.
studied for your licensing
All right,
a little
now.
bit more, you would have known.
Look, I passed that test.
So,
Barely,
yeah.
but I passed. All right, so let's jump into second chapter of this, I guess. Let's talk about some strategies for effective studying. And you already mentioned a couple with your flashcards and with your Canva, or with your index cards, like that you cut in half and all that kind of stuff. You talked about the Canva. Was it a template that you found on Canva?
Yeah, I found a template on Canva.
Cool. It's
So-
9 to a page.
Yes, because I didn't want to really. I knew I was going to make like 300 cards, and so in the front and back. So I didn't want to just do 4 to a page because that would have been
Oh, yeah.
so much waste of
Terrible.
a paper, and you can really make font small. So yeah, I was writing them down, and then I think I got to 50 cards, and my hands started cramping. And then they just weren't. I don't have the best handwriting, and so
Yeah.
they just weren't as cute as I would have wanted.
Me too.
And it was not giving me joy, and my OCD-ness was not happening. Things weren't perfectly centered. So yeah, I have been for the past 2.5 days making 300 and some. I'm still not done yet because there's 3 portions. There's 3 different tests. They all equal about 200 questions, but it's the Bible, which is color-coded blue, everyone. It's
Sure.
our church doctrine, which is color-coded green.
Yep.
And it's like I think it's kind of like the history of the church.
Bylaws and stuff? No.
Bylaws. No, P. It starts with a P. I haven't color-coded that one. It's going to be purple,
Nice.
but I haven't done that one yet.
Cool. Okay, well, past those, or let's do this. Are there any other like practical ways that you like to study?
So I have to, and I just discovered this, but typing kind of does the same thing to me as handwriting. I need to write something down to retain it.
Yeah, okay.
If I printed out the study guide and just reading the piece of paper over and over again, it will all jumble in together and I won't retain it well.
Yeah.
Or I'll be able to see in my peripherals as I'm reading a verse, I will be able to see on the side, covering it, if it's Matthew or whatnot. So I like flashcards because I can test myself.
Yeah.
And then I can put, I know this pile, I don't know this pile, I barely know this pile. And so it's able for me to kind of rotate that is why I really like it. Typing up on Canva, as I was telling you when I did the blue first, and as I was going through the doctrine, some of the verses, they correlated with the blue, but I was already familiar with those verses. So I'm like, boom, typing it is already helping.
Little
This is
brain muscle
fantastic.
memory. That's awesome.
Also, whenever I have the cards cut out, I will be reading them aloud because
Oh boy, I can't wait.
remember in college when we weren't married yet, but I recorded myself reading my notes and I
You
would
played
fall
it at night.
I fell asleep to the sound of my voice. This is when I was a med
I
student.
remember you saying that.
I hated the sound of my voice.
Dude, studying for medical stuff is a whole
yeah, you
different
don't want your
level.
doctors to skip.
No.
This is the reason why I did not finish
Man.
PT school.
That's
No, no,
heavy
no.
stuff.
But so I'm going to read it out loud because I don't know the statistics, but it just shows that if you read something, you remember it like a percent of time, like a certain percentage, and then if you read it out loud, your memorization or your learning increases, and then if you write it down, it increases even more. So
That's
really, I try and do all 3 of those, and yeah, some people like you can read something and retain it for a while. I will read and I forget what I read. So I have to work a little bit harder, which I think.
A lot of people are like this though with reading.
But I think because I have to work a little bit harder and I had such strict parents, that's how the innate of me doing what I do.
Kind of got burned
Yeah,
into you.
I don't know how to study any other way, but all of it, 100% go out.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Know your strengths.
You keep on saying I'm wasting my time.
Okay, this is not a roast Taylor for roasting Liz episode.
I'm just saying.
Too much honesty.
Whatever. So, when's the last time you had to actual study? Like, I'm not saying my life depends on this, but it's been a while since I've had to study to take a test out of my strengths of studying, because even in, for my master's, you had Google, it was mostly papers. It wasn't like studying and taking a test.
And that's the difference, yeah. With papers, you're able to talk around a subject until you get to what you want to say.
And you reference. And even, I joke when we did Bible school and stuff like that, we took some tests, but, we used Google a little bit. Because even when you preach with your outline. You don't memorize every single thing. I was going to bring the interesting point of, I haven't had to study for a test, but as a musician, I think that it's fair to say that my practice time is my study time. I would agree with that.
And then services are the test, So when I go to play a song on the platform on a Sunday morning, it's like, okay, let's call back those things that I have studied or practiced. So that's an interesting thing. Pastors are probably the same way with the messages, what they've practiced, not practiced necessarily, but what they've prepared during the week and studied during the week, they're presenting.
Could you imagine have you done this before? Because you've been asked to preach at the last minute before, but because you've preached more messages than I, and I've never had to preach a message on the fly. But if you studied really well before preaching a sermon versus just getting the outline and preaching a sermon, you kind of present more confidently, do you not?
Interestingly enough, it is definitely just my personality, but I have not consistently preached, so I haven't had to consistently study, and so I haven't had to consistently test this out. But more often than not, for me, the longer that I work on a message, the more I overthink it and the more complicated it becomes. Sometimes in those moments, and this is the dangerous thing that I think that a lot of leaders can get to in their life when they get to this place, and it's with a bad heart. But I am able to, the night before, campus pastor gets sick, and then Jason goes, hey, I need you to preach at this place. Here's the message. I would be able to pull that off, and I would be able to do it in a way, by God's grace and by nothing but God's grace, that most people would not know. And that comes from being comfortable on the platform. So you're not worrying about your peer pressure or your anxiety. That doesn't play into it. So all you're doing is essentially doing your best to read the outline and the notes and then present it in a way that's compelling and engaging to people. And this, dude, it's possible as a worship leader too. It's super possible for us to get to a place where we come to a Sunday morning and we just sing the words that are on the stage display on the back wall. And if we're good enough, people are like, man, what an amazing service. And it's like, you didn't engage your heart or acknowledge the presence of God at one moment.
So you were just singing, you weren't worshiping.
It's so possible to do that. And it's so, but I feel that way almost like, when you heard me say that about myself, I feel that way about you with some tests. You will not study for some test and then just blow it out of the water and get a 99.
When do I not study for a test?
Any high school stuff, I feel like. I used to be so mad at you.
Oh, that was math, and I'm Asian, so that doesn't count.
Sad. I want to be ninja. All right.
Stop. But no, math was easy. So I slept. I would sleep in math class and then ace the test.
And then I'm going to math tutoring and still not passing tests.
But with English, that was papers. But I would study. I studied a lot of science. I remember my 12th grade. For my test, and it was so weird. This teacher was so cruel. But the highest person determined the curve.
That is silly. It was silly. It was
the worst. And I came in second. I remember Hannah Rugner, you beat me. I remember this so.
Hannah Rugner, I hope you're listening to this.
I will tag you in this.
I hope you're listening to this.
I remember it. But we had to do the digestive system, remember? And we had to sit down. The test was we sat down.
I remember this.
And we had a blank piece of paper in front of us. And we just started writing the process of the digestive system. So literally, food goes in your mouth and you chew.
I learned this because
Mastication.
you studied it.
Yeah, and so and then you literally the process of the whole digestion tract to defecation, which is pooping.
Yeah.
And so however many facts you get or you like got in your paper was like a point. And so let's say if I got 50 facts, that was the highest grade. Like if I had the highest amount of points, so that means if someone only got 20, their grade was now 20 out of 50.
Gosh.
And so your grade depended. It was like a competition.
How much you knew.
And I think I was 2 facts short of being number 1. So I got like a 98 or something.
Sad day.
But to do that, I literally wrote down that paper so many times. Like I rewrote it and I would say it aloud. And even to now, I can literally tell you so much stuff. Like whenever it goes down your throat, it's a boilus. So how I can spell it, I might not be able to say it, but it doesn't matter. I can spell it on paper. But it was just it was science that I guess was just a lot of memorization. Well, yeah, because English, like you were saying, you can kind of get away with it a little bit. You can read and it's bound, walk around it. Math, you either know it, you don't. So that's not really like you either understand the formula, you don't understand the formula. White. Yeah, and I like puzzles. But it's the sciences that kind of gets me. And so and now with Bible, granted, like I know the stories, and I was very proud of myself when I was studying all the scriptures. Like there was no familiar story because I've read the Bible fully. So there was not any story or a scripture that was like, oh, I've never read this before. But I can't tell you which verse is which of the story. Like I can't tell you
to call back the reference.
Yeah, the
That's
Samaritan
hard.
woman. Like I know it's in like this gospel, but I can't tell you the actual number.
I was going to be like, it's in the Gospels.
Yeah,
no, that's it.
But
narrowed it down.
But and I think I'm a little excited to know it too, which is why I'm going all out and studying because I want to know. I want to be a better, student of the Bible. So this is kind of giving me more motivation. It's not like I'm studying for an anatomy test or, the digestive system where I literally have not used it since 12th grade in high school.
Yeah. I think that while I don't like studying at all, I love researching.
Yeah, you love your logos.
Dude, I mean, massive bookshelves behind us, and that's not including all the books that I have in my office at work. I just love learning stuff and researching stuff, and I try to recall it as best I can in those random situations, but to be tested on it is hard for me. That's just tough. So let me ask you this. So I'm just going to ask you a couple rapid fire questions just to get your perspective on creating the perfect study environment.
See, I'm going to be different than the average Joe. So
That's
just
fine.
do opposite of me.
Let's see. So let's talk about creating the perfect study environment. So in your perfect study environment, is there music or no music?
Probably no music. If there is music, it has to be instrumental.
Okay,
There cannot be words.
What kind of instrumental?
Probably the lo-fi. I really enjoy.
Yeah, cool.
Like right now, Studio Ghibli lo-fi.
Nice.
Like
yeah.
I'm really jamming out to that.
Heck yeah.
But some people they enjoy going to a coffee shop. Nah, not me. All the busy. I would prefer to be alone. Like going to a coffee shop, it's too busy.
What? So you get overstimulated at a coffee shop when you
Yes.
study? What is it that overstimulates you? Do you think it's
there's
the
so much
sounds?
movement around me.
Okay.
Because even like the headphones, like I could put on headphones and noise canceling and
You
all that
have
stuff.
always struggled with this.
Yes, but
I
I
love
don't.
it.
It's too much, and I just don't feel comfortable in a coffee shop.
Can I tell you why? So I enjoy studying at a coffee shop. Can I tell you why I enjoy it?
Because you love the people.
I don't necessarily love the people. Why do you think I like studying at coffee shops?
Because it makes you feel bougie.
Because it makes me feel, if people see me studying, they think that I'm important. I think at some broken level of my mind, I'm impressive to people if I'm like, got my Bible or a book right there and I'm just like read it.
How many times have we went whenever we were doing schoolwork and we would go to a coffee shop to study, mainly because I needed you to study and I just watched anime.
Oh, every time. Every single time.
Because you're like, what are you doing over there? I'm like, nothing. But I study. I just prefer to study in my quiet time. Okay,
so in your perfect study environment, is it bright or is it a dark environment?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, not like super dark where the screen is illuminating my face.
Yeah, I hate that.
But I mean, it doesn't. I don't have to have the right. It doesn't have to be super bright. So maybe like mid. Can I choose a mid?
You can choose a mid brightness.
Nice.
Yeah, the brighter the better for me. Okay. black ink or colorful pens?
You got a color code. I
I
already
know.
talked about it. Color code all the way.
Well, what kind of pens? Little
Well,
shameless plug here.
oh man, y'all, erasable pens has changed my life.
Gosh.
If I could have that in high school, remember when I would used to rewrite my notes just to make them neater and prettier in high school and college?
I used to as well. I was looking for it earlier. My Dave Ramsey whatever book that I took that class in high school. I would love like the blue and the green and the purple color combo. I would use that a lot and just alternate. It was nice.
Yeah, but gosh, colorful pens and now they're erasable. My life has changed.
Wild. Okay, so last two little chapters of this. Let's talk about, and let's really spend some time hashing out how study is a spiritual discipline. So let's talk about maybe, and we can riff on this for a little. We can talk a little bit about this, like whatever feels right to us. Let's talk about how studying the Bible is different from like studying a textbook and why it is so crucial for spiritual growth.
So I feel you have to define what you're studying for. And so I remember in high school, because remember I love flashcards, I would write, and I would still have these scriptures I did memorize. I would write scriptures on the index cards, and I would write them about 15 times on different index cards, and I would hand them to my friends. I'm like, here's your verse of the day. I was the verse of the day before the verse of the day was a thing.
Come on, you version.
Hey,
Step it up.
But I really was. And so, granted, should I still be doing that? Absolutely. Do
Probably.
I? No. You version got it covered. Like, work smarter, not harder. But but I wanted that season because I was so new in the Bible and I really just wanted to have stuff memorized.
Yeah.
And I had a hunger for it. And so I put priority on memorizing the scripture. And I would have my friends test me too.
Why?
Just because I wanted to memorize scripture. That was my goal. That was it. Just
to memorize scripture?
Just to know it.
You didn't want it to be able, you didn't want to recall it in certain seasons or in situations?
I think if I can remember quickly, I wanted a better prayer life, and I think I've heard one time, if you didn't know what to pray for, you pray scripture.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what sparked, because I didn't know how to, remember I didn't really start going to church until high school, so I didn't grow up with grandma or grandpa praying over me. I didn't grow up with the prayers of my family, so I didn't really know how to pray.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just kind of what I heard is like, oh, you pray scriptures, and I didn't know scripture like that.
Cool,
so.
Yeah. I think that is something too. Setting an objective for studying is helpful.
Yeah, you have to have your why. In anything you do, really, not just studying, you have to have a why.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's just like if you were to be like, I'm going to save money. You're not going to save money until you pinpoint why you want to. And then, unless you're like me and you're like, I'm going to save up for this Vision Pro, but then you save up a little bit of money and you're like, actually, I want to buy this thing. It's a little bit cheaper.
Taylor's not a good. You like instant gratification, which is not bad. But, yeah, you don't like to wait, obviously.
I'm a microwave.
Yeah, you are.
So, I think for me, it is important to, if I were to define the why study the Bible, right? Obviously, it's not an academic textbook. It is a historical document, and it is a love letter. However, it is different than just an academic, mathematics, scientific, whatever textbook. And I think the reason that I would study it or research into the Bible and get all the context and everything that I can is for the test of life. And I know that sounds really weird and cheesy, but what I mean by that is kind of what I was getting at earlier of there's so many different things that happen in our life, and there's so many different family member passes away, a difficult situation happens in your coworker's life, and they're like, how would you deal with this? Like, what do I do with this? Or you go through a bout of depression, or you experience some kind of loneliness, or fill in the gap with anything that we experience in the human experience. When those things happen and when those things arise, you have to be able to call back on something and recall something. And it's either going to be out of your own flesh, or it's going to be what you have received from the Word. So to me, Joshua 1:8. We put this in the outline. Joshua 1:8 says, keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night. Why? So that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. So we see this pattern of keep the book of the law on your heart and on your lips, and you're going to be prosperous and successful. So to me, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have a bank account that's super fat, but it does mean that when I go through those valley moments and those difficult things, I'm going to be able to prosper through them, and I'm going to be able to grow through them. Why? Because I'm recalling what I've learned in the Bible, and I've internalized those things, and now I can pull that stuff out.
That's good. So good. And I kind of think too, whenever life really hits you, that's kind of where you will know if you have something just memorized, or if you have something hidden in your heart, if that makes sense. Because it's so easy to be like, Isaiah, by his stripes we are healed, but then not like actually living as like, God, if you don't do anything else good for me, like you've already done enough. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful with taking like scripture picking just because it's like, I'm feeling a little sad. Yeah. The joy of the Lord is my strength. You're not gonna if it's not sealed away in your heart, like all the scriptures, just saying the joy of the Lord is my strength, that's not gonna change anything. That's you just stating some words. So I think that's to expound on what you were saying.
There was a dinner party one time. Dinner party.
Stop, Taylor, with your...
There was a dinner party one time, and tons of prolific writers and poets came, and it was a custom in this party for some reason for everybody to read, poetry and read something for the whole group. And so they all went and they recited their pieces. They did all this stuff, and somebody inevitably did the 23rd Psalm. And
the Lord is my shepherd.
Yep, Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And he read through the whole thing, and he was a poet, and so his voice was just silky and smooth, and it was amazing. It was just such a great time. And then when he finished, everybody just kind of clapped and politely just moved on. Well, there was this older lady that was invited, and so she was there, but she kind of dozed off and everything. And so when they kind of nudged her, hey, it's your time to go, she's kind of startled. She woke up, and she was like, okay. So then she starts to, because she's been asleep, she starts to recite the 23rd Psalm, which the guy had just read. And so in her shaky voice, she begins to recite the 23rd Psalm. And as she goes through it, she shakes through and everything. And when she's all finished, the room is silent and people are weeping and sobbing. And it's just an overflowing of emotion. And so the guy that had just read it beforehand goes, why is everybody, what's going on? Like, I just read this. My voice was way more powerful. I was way more, amazing at this. And somebody looks over to him and they said, you read the poem because you know the poem. She read the poem and she knows the author. And it was that difference of her knowing the shepherd and knowing the author of that.
Spending time with the shepherd.
Right. That took that information from just, I have that in my head, like that's fine. And it's exactly like what you were saying. It's hidden in her heart. She knows the shepherd that is referenced in Psalm 23. And it's that difference of, okay, this is hidden in my heart, or this is just head knowledge. It's way, way different.
And I feel like we get in so much trouble because with this generation, as you were saying, it's so easy to research and go. We have so much information on the tip of our hands.
Amazing.
And so
and
we
terrible.
can have so much knowledge and so little heart. Kind of like what you were saying with you can get by just by being a good speaker or being able to worship, to sing a good song without practicing. And so if you don't acknowledge like what you are doing it for, then what's the point? If you're just reading the Bible, and granted, I believe, if you diligently read the Bible, God's going to move and do something with you. Yep. But I love how people even say, like, before you, like, God, help me understand this. Like, do a little prayer before you even start reading the Bible. And, like, help these words transform me. Help me find something new. Give me a fresh revelation. Yeah. And so I feel that is like the key to studying the Bible versus reading the Bible, because I can just read the Bible. I can literally grab one right now and just start reading. Yeah. But that's reading the Bible. But then I feel like when you want to study, you want that. You want to expounded. I made up that word, expound. Did I say that right?
You can expound the text, okay. Whatever. Yeah.
Taylor always tells me I make up words when I think they're real words, and so now I'm sensitive.
You're on a roll. I love this.
But if you do that, like the difference between reading and studying. Studying is like, I want to know more of this. I want this in my heart. I want to be able to recall it whenever I have tough times versus let me do my good Christian thing. Let me check off. Let me just read the Bible.
Yep. Totally true. Totally true. Yeah. Yeah. It just has to make it from the head to the heart. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes it just becomes the checklist thing. And it's just the ordinary thing that we have to do. We've set the resolution that I'm going to read the Bible this year. And so we just breeze right through it. And
full disclosure, because I believe in accountability, I have taken a break from my Bible reading plan. I have postponed it until I take my licensing exam because I have been studying.
it's a lot of flashcards.
So many. Well, and then guys, I'm telling you, I want a perfect score. I want it.
That'd be wild. All right, let's wrap up today with the last section, and that's overcoming challenges when it comes to studying. So I think it's no secret some of the main villains, I guess, when it comes to challenges when it comes to studying, and that's things like procrastination. Ayo.
Yeah, don't do that. That when you procrastinate, that doesn't help.
I'll study later.
You can no. Well, here's the thing, because the more you procrastinate, your window of studying gets smaller, and so now the stress level is higher.
Terrible.
And then now, because it's higher, you're going to have less focus because now there's an urgency. So it's just not going to work, guys. As soon as I got the study guide, I think it was Monday, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe Tuesday.
Monday sounds right.
Okay, okay. So Tuesday, I scheduled my exam. I haven't heard back on the day I asked, but I asked it for April 2nd. So I'm giving myself three weeks, and I'm planning to study every single day for 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's tough. Procrastination's massive. Distraction's another thing. So that's me. I'll start to study and then I'll pull out Clash of Clans, or I'll start to study and then I'll do something else.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, my ADD, and it's really just me being.
And for that,
loose.
literally set aside time of the day. Like study shows that you are most productive in the morning, and like when you kind of shortly wake up and like right before bed. So maybe even it doesn't have to be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read my flashcards in the morning. And then I'll study some throughout the day or at night. But then I'm going to make sure to read through all 300 flashcards in the morning. It shouldn't take that long. And I'm going to read through all 300 flashcards at night.
Dang.
And so that's going to be like and then, in between, I'm going to be testing myself. But that's my goal. Is it going to happen? No. But I'm making sure to set aside time in the morning, time at night, away from my phone.
Yeah. Well, do not disturb action.
I'm just going to go into a different room than my phone.
That's wild. Can I tell you another reason I think that's like a silent killer of our desire to study?
What?
Comfortability.
I don't understand.
So comfortability, and I think a lack of quote unquote tests in our life, or like in our daily life, I think it makes us feel like we don't have to study. Because if everything is going well in our lives, or if there's never a physical test or like anything else that we're like really having to do, or else we're going to get in trouble or be held accountable for it, it makes us feel like we don't need to study, no test, no need to study.
That kind of makes sense. I feel if it wasn't for me doing this exam coming up in 3 weeks, there's no way I would be studying on our church's doctrine. No.
No, and it comes down, again, to setting that outcome, setting the goal, and then you kind of go from there.
If you guys want to know the 16 fundamental truth of the Assemblies of God.
How many can you name right now?
4. I said 4 and held up 3 hands.
4.
But I've been doing the Bible. I just went.
Okay, say them. Say the 3 you got.
Stop putting me on the thing. I've only studied 3 days, okay? I just made the flashcards.
I don't remember them all right now. Final judgment.
God is our blessed hope. Jesus
is
our blessed hope.
Yeah.
Do.
Probably the millennial reign.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Okay, anyway.
It's tough stuff. Go. Anyways, that was us studying. But yeah, I think that, as we close up with this, the biggest thing to remember is if you're not growing, you're dying. Period.
I'm not getting any more tall. So
wow.
I guess I'm dying.
You got to grow in other ways. But seriously, if you're struggling with not studying the Bible, or if you're struggling with even reading or any kind of studying like that, if you're not growing, you are going in reverse. And I don't think that it's the Lord's desire for any of us that we would go into reverse. And so that's why we step up to this call and we go, okay, even though I'm procrastinating a little bit, even though I'm distracted, even though I'm really not motivated at all to study, I'm going to lean into it, and it's going to be a good time. I'm not going to enjoy it. I hate studying. Again, I don't love studying. However, I do love growth, and I'm a big fan
You
of,
like the
developing.
results of studying.
Oh, yeah, so good. Yeah. Any last words for the people at home or at the gym or driving?
Nope. I mean, send good vibes my way. Maybe do a little.
What
prayer.
new age is this?
I don't know. Maybe do a little like in your prayer time. Maybe be like
Thoughts and prayers.
and pray that Elizabeth remembers everything she is studying.
Is that how they talk? Does that how you guys talk?
I don't know. It was my little voice. Stop.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this conversation in this episode of The Clydes. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give this a thumbs up and share it with somebody, and also drop a comment letting us know your favorite studying technique. That could be something we mentioned.
I need new techniques.
No, you don't. You have flashcards. I need them. I don't know how to study. She is amazing.
New techniques.
She is the best. Hey, if you're listening on Spotify or if you're watching on Spotify, you already know what to do. Answer that Q&A that popped up when you first saw this episode, and let us know something that you enjoy about studying or a study technique or whatever else. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram. Elizabeth P. Clyde, Taylor M. Clyde. Taylor M. Clyde? Just Taylor Clyde.
Just Taylor Clyde.
Middle name is Micah, in case you guys are wondering. Taylor M. Clyde would be for that. But yeah, send us an idea for a future episode if you guys want to hear us kind of talk about something, or if you want to hear us wrestle through something, or maybe even send us some study stuff through that. That could be kind of cool too. But thanks again for listening. We're really excited that you guys were with us. And until next time,
Bye-bye.
we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye.
Now you say it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
we do.
All right, see you guys.